the entanglement. That is what the word we use when we talk about the cyborg studies. Okay, so that is what is cyborg. The second one, what you see is that the first aspect you see as in how the cyborg is being able to connect with the humanity and technological aspect. The second one, you come across the cyborg fiction.
Excuse me, ma'am.
So what is this? Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could you just click on the hide there? The box that appears. There is a box that appears down, so we just cannot see the entire slide. Could you just click on the hide option there? Below.
Okay, now can
now
you
it's
see?
okay.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Now is it okay?
Yeah.
Now is
yes, ma'am.
Okay, madam. Perfect.
Okay. So can I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure, you can.
Okay. So did you understand the first part of the cyborgs, as in the three aspects, as in the first aspect I dealt with? So now we'll move on to the second aspect. Okay. So the second aspect is what we know as the cyborg fiction. So what is this cyborg fiction? So cyborg fiction is that what are the fictional narratives that you experience, as in what are the imaginative things and what are the possibilities through imagination, how that is being implanted or how that is being cultivated through the technological aspects. That is what you can see in the cyborg fiction. So some cyborg fiction that I have put down here is that the famous William Gibson's Neuromancer and a film text that is Terminator. So Terminator, everyone must be aware of that, as he's a part human and a part machine, right? So that is what is cyborg fiction like. So cyborg fiction here you can see as in how the fictional narratives that is being implanted, that is being transformed through the imaginative things which is being possible through the technological aspect. So the third one, what you see is the theoretical explorations. So what is this theoretical explorations? So this theoretical explorations is where you see how the relationship is between the inhuman and the new world disorder. So what is this new world disorder? So here you come across the hybrid identities, as in some disorders, like you come across the disability studies or something like that. So how that is being able to bring in with the theoretical aspect. So for example, you may come recently, you all might be aware of medical humanities. So this medical humanities is where you come across the illness. Okay, so all these things associated with illness and all those. So how this actually is being connected in a theoretical aspect. That is what we talk about in the theoretical exploration. So this is the first idea, as in the first thing you come across, as in how the cyborgs is being dealt in the fiction and also in the film text. And now you come across as in what are the three different aspects that you are able to connect with the cyborgs. So the next we come across the famous writer. So when we talk about cyborg itself, there are so many writers that they have come up with the cyborg fiction or in the films. But the first writer, the first influential writer who put forward the cyborg in the work is actually Donna Haraway. So who is this Donna Haraway? So Donna Haraway, you know, she's an American literary critic, a scholar who is very famous for her first work, that is the Cyborg Manifesto. So Cyborg Manifesto, the full title is Science, Technology and Socialist Feminism. So here this book was actually first published in Socialist Review. Okay, and what do we see in her book? Okay, so this writer, okay, so what she tells is that how the cyborg is being differentiated as in three different elements. Okay, how she actually talks about the concept of human, and how she tells that now human are not considered as a whole entity. Okay, because human always evolves with different categories, with the nature, with the technology. So human are not nowadays considered as a whole being. Okay, so that's when she raises a question when she talks about the human aspect in her book. Okay, so when she talks about the cyborg itself, she has a project, and that project is entitled as Cyborg Project. So this Cyborg Project, you come across three different elements. So the first one is that she talks about the identities. Okay, how the identities being questioned Okay, as in she tells herself that she was a socialist feminist, who's a white female, who's a biologist, and all those things. And then she tells as in how the modern Western supremacy is being taking control. Okay, as in you come across how the humans are being evolving from the monkey. Okay, then how the from monkey apes, and how the woman has been segregated. And now you come across, before you see in all the things, only man was playing a major role when we talk about these cyborgs. But nowadays you also come across how the women are also portrayed in some of the movies and also in some of the fictional narratives. So that's when she comes across with the term that's known as the cyborg feminist. Okay, so when we talk about the cyborg feminist, you come across how the women are taking up the role of being a cyborg. Okay, so the best example or fictional example of film text, what I would tell is that this movie everyone must have watched this film, that is Spike Jonze Herd. Okay, so this Spike Jonze Herd you come across as in the woman is actually a robot. Okay, as in she's a robot, a form of cyborg like. She has a direct connection with the creator. Okay, and then they both fall in love. Okay, the same thing you come across in Ex Machina, Alex Garland's Ex Machina, where you see has been the female is being completely brought in so many destruction, as in with a form of AI, and with the AI she has been created, but she completely destructs everything, the one who actually created. Okay, so that is where you come across the female cyborgs, and this is in the film text that I'm highlighting. But when we talk about the fictional narratives, you come across Pat Cadigan's Sinners, where there are three characters where the women are completely described as the cyborgs. Okay, so that also you can read it. Okay, when we talk about the cyborg feminism. Okay, so here she tells that nowadays, more than the men, we also come across how the women are playing a major role in the technology, and how they also has a complete transformation with regards to the cyborg, as in with regards to the entanglement of the human and the technological aspect in the 21st century. So the second thing what you see here is the scientific narratives with regards to the research. So when we talk about the scientific narratives is nothing but it's a science fiction. Okay, so nowadays most of the science fiction you can see it's not only with regards to the technology, but you can also see as in how nature also is being represented in the form of technological aspects. So here you come across how she tells in this, when you talk about the scientific elements, she tells that how the context of gender and race is represented in the form of cyborgs. That also she tells. And the third one is what you see is the liberal individuals. So what is this liberal individuals? How the, yeah, what happened? Can I continue?
Yes, please, you can.
So the third one, what we see is the, please someone,
excuse me, Anupriya ma'am. Could you please put up your mic?
So the third one, what we see is about the liberal individuals, as in how the cyborg has been playing the central role, okay, and how others are being treated as a side, or in the side characters or something like that. Okay, so these are some three important elements that we talk about the cyborg aspect. So this Donna Haraway, okay, so when she talks about the cyborg status, as in how she tells that how the other critics or other humanism or other feminists, they actually challenge her with some of the post-colonial aspects. Okay, so that I'll just quote it here. So she tells that you being a Euro-American feminist and a humanist, so a historian science who talks about the Western philosophies. So that is some things that you come across, as in she's been critic for being as in for writing the book, the cyborg thing, because the post-colonial critics were not happy with her book. So that is the thing that you come across. And the next collection of her work is Simians, Cyborgs and Women. So the first book, what we saw, is laid the foundation of actually what is cyborg and how it's actually been connected to the science and technology studies. So now the second book, what we see, it's about the Simians, Cyborgs and Women, where has been a direct connection with the nature. So this book where you come across, it's actually an essay where you see it's about the cultural manifestations and how the cyborgs is taking place of a transformative metaphors and also a cultural conflicts that happens because of the cyborgs in the 20th century. Okay. So there is another writer, that is Friedrich. So this writer, he tells that how the cyborgs, okay, even though they are in the conscious or unconscious state, he tells that their narratives, the cyborgs' narratives, are sometimes being treated as a masters or the slavery things which they dealt with. And that is another thing that we come across, that is cyberspace. So when we talk about the cyberspace, the cyborgs plays a major role here. Okay, so cyborgs you come across as in how the other Marxist writers, they also talk about this cyborgs thing in their cyberspace. Okay, as in how the cyborgs are not neutral, they actually react to whatever the humans try to convey to them. So that is what you see when we talk about the cyberspace. And this was actually put forward by a writer, that is Julian Stahlebras. So Julian Stahlebras, it's a British historian, and he's the one who actually collaborated with Bernard Stiegler to bring in some concepts relating to cyborgs. Okay, so as in he tells that how this cyborgs is being brought in with regards to the postmodern aspects. So when we talk about the postmodern aspects, he talks about some of the films like Terminator, then Ghost in the Shell. So these are some of the movies that he tells that how cyborgs is being playing a major role in the film text. Okay, so in this slide, you come across, as in I have highlighted the famous work of science fi, that is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So this Mary Shelley Frankenstein, so when you start reading the text, you come across how the character monster, okay, in the beginning, you can see how the character monster is being in a different island, okay, and how he actually has no idea where he is or what he is doing. Okay, so that character you come across, as in even in the throughout the novel, you come across how actually he longs for a companion, even though when he sees the love of Victor, as in the love of other couples and all those things in the novel, he also feels that, he also wants that, and he feels that since he's a monster, okay, that everyone is afraid of seeing him and they move away from him. Okay, so this character you can very well see as in how this technology has completely ruined a person's life. Okay, so in this novel is a very important aspect where you come across how this monster, as in this technological aspect, has completely destroyed a person's life. Okay, and it's actually a very good novel. So if you'll have time, you can just go through this novel, because you come across how actually this technology plays a major role and how it actually transforms a person's life, and in the end, how that person's life is completely destroyed because of the human and machine concept. Okay, so that is what is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein we come across. And the next thing what you see is the cyborg missions. So this cyborgs missions are that how they are actually being connected to the humanity and technology. As well, I explained that is being connected to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, how the human and the technological aspects is being evolved. And the best one would be Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Okay. And some critics, okay, so the critics like Rita Bilski and Andres Husen, what they have talked about is that they actually criticize the male cyborgs. They don't talk about the female cyborgs, but they criticize the male cyborgs. So who are these people? So Rita Felski and Andrea. Rita Felski is actually an American critic, and Andrea Husin is actually Belgian professor, okay, who's famous for his comparative literature. So in one of his talk, he has explained how the male cyborgs, okay, how the male cyborgs has been brought in with the representation of robots in the feminized platform, as in most of the things that you come across, even the feminism, even the women has been represented here, but how the male cyborg is being dominant in the feminized mass culture, how this male dominant, especially the robot form, how that has been becoming very prominent in the feminized mass culture. That is what he has brought in. So with regards to that, he talks about one movie, that is Metropolis. Okay, so Metropolis was actually being directed by Fritz Lang. So there you come across as in how the cyborgs is being evolving in the end of the 20th century. Okay, so in Metropolis you come across as in how the cyborgs plays a major role there. Okay, and that is the first movie that you come across when we talk about the cyborgs. Okay, and some of the cyborg concepts. What are the other cyborg concepts that we see when we talk about the cyborg study? Is that it's internet, then artificial intelligence, then virtual reality and cyberspace. Okay, so internet, AI, virtual reality and cyberspace are some of the things that is being connected to cyborg studies. So for this, I would like to tell an example. That is the example that has been highlighted here is Depth of Honor. So this one, okay, this movie is actually being directed by Tom Clancy. So what does he tell in this movie is that he tells how the technology is being brought in at its best, and at the same time is also represented how the technology is used as a weapon to destroy the enemy. Okay, so it's not that technology completely ruins a person's life here. But what you see in this movie is that you see in Depth of Honor, that is Tom Clancy's Depth of Honor, you see as in how the technology is used as a weapon. Okay, so how the technology is being played as a major role there, and how it completely ruins the enemy's life, as in the antagonist's life. That is what you can see in the Depth of Honor. Okay, and next what you see is here is that how the cyborg fiction, what is the main idea of behind the cyborg fiction? So the main idea is that the first thing, it questions the identity. Okay, as in why there is so much importance to inhuman persons, as in why there's so much importance to the inhuman representations in the movie or the films. And the next one is that there is no conservation of the humans in nature. So this is the question that they put forward in the cyborg fiction. So the first thing what they question is that what is the identity that is being portrayed in the cyborg fiction, as in they question the human identity. And the next one is that why there is why it's very important for a inhuman nature. Okay, and next one is that they question the conservation of human and the nature. This is what you talk about in the science, as in the cyborg fiction, they raises some question. Okay, so the next one what we see is that what are the other things that we talk about, as in how can we explore in the form of identities in the cyborg fiction. So the first one is that we are living in a different world, as in, we are living in a technology related world, right? We are not anymore like we just don't use technology or something like that. We are living in a world where every time we are connected through technology in some way or the other. Okay, so that's where here we come across as in how we are actually having a direct connection with the new world we are living in. Okay, so when we talk about the new world, we come across that is a separate term that is being used when we talk with the technological aspect, that is radical cyborg fiction. So what is this radical cyborg fiction? So this cyborg fiction is that you come across hybridity, okay, and then you come across the double consciousness and also the pure politics. So hybridity, you must be aware of the term that is being put forward by Homi K. Bhabha, right? And double conscious, it's in a different state of mind. and queer politics, how these plays a major role in the cyborg fiction, and that is comes under the radical aspects. So the next thing what we see here is that the cultural boundaries, why these three terms is being connected to this radical cyborg fiction is that because of the cultural boundaries that takes place and the shift that actually happens when it comes to the sci-fi. Okay, so this cyborgs, when did they actually start to evolve? So this cyborgs were actually starting to evolve after post-World War II. Okay, so post-World War II is where you come across this hybrid entities. So what is this hybrid entities? Hybrid is nothing but it's a combination of two elements. So here when we talk about the combination of two elements, it's the human and the machine. Okay, so this hybrid entities is actually evolved after the post-war II, and that's where we come across the culture that is being used in the high technology. So the cybernetic organism is where we use the term for human and technology aspect, as in how actually the human and the technology is having a direct connection and how they are evolved as an embodiment with the technology. So that is what is known as the cybernetic organism. As in cybernetic organism is nothing but it is a cyborgs. Okay. So for that cybernetic organism or that embodiment of technology, I would like to tell you all about this writer and this critic, that is Julian Stalabras. Okay, so what does he tell when we talk about the cyberspace and everything is that he tells that the situation as in each individual in this world, okay, we are living in a contemporary society where we come across, there are so many other peoples that whom we actually meet. Like we come across some business people, we come across some camp followers or something, how they perceive themselves and they take a move against the communal wave. Okay, so he tells that it's not only the world that we are living, it's only related to cyberspace, but there are other aspects that you also can come in, as in you come across there are other things that is being dealt with the business people and the camp followers. Okay, so this writer, as I mentioned in the last session also, William Gibson. Okay, so William Gibson, famous American speculative fiction writer. Okay, so his work, I actually told it's the Neuromancer, which was actually famous, but this is another work that is, it's a short story. Okay, so the Winter Market is actually a short story where you come across the character Lizzie. Okay, so this character Lizzie is a robot. Okay, it's a old-fashioned robot. Okay, where you come across that character females, how that female cyborg is being represented. So you can connect the character Lizzie with that of the Metropolis character. Okay, female character, the female cyborg, you'll be able to see, as in they actually have a connection. Okay, so this Winter Market, this character Lizzie, and Metropolis character female cyborg also has a direct connection. Okay, so here what you see, this character Lizzie, okay, what does she tell is that this character is you can see the character life as in how her life is being completely loaded in a computer. Okay, how her personal life or personal data, everything has been loaded into the computer. Okay, and how she wants to escape from that. Okay, so she doesn't want to live in that life. She is actually fed up of having seen all those things and everything. So she feels that she wants to move away from that. Even her personal data, everything has been actually stored into the computer. Okay, so she doesn't want to lead a life like that. So that's when she wants to escape the life that she was leading. Okay, so in the end, what does happen to character Lizzie is that she is not able to escape from the world that she was actually living. Actually, as in she's caught up in the world of the technology. Okay, so when she was caught up in the world of technology, you can see how she actually is been losing her life. Okay, but she doesn't want to, but she's been forced to lose her life, and how she becomes an immortal being. Okay, and how her life is, no one is aware of actually why she has to lose her life or anything of that sort. Okay, So this character, this downloaded, as in her personal data, everything which is being downloaded in the computer, this character, when she has this fear, okay, that fear, you can use the term fear for that, okay. So when you use the term, she's been this complete character you come across, as in she's become a fearful woman, as in she has a fear inside her, okay, as in she comes to know all her data has been uploaded, then she's scared of so many things, as in she's been she has a fear of losing her identity, and also she's been fear of losing her sexuality, the fear of being a woman, everything you come across when you come across this character Lizzie, okay. So this character Lizzie, even though you come across, there are so many things that the technology has brought in, so many different aspects, it has brought in a different change in the human environment, but there are also certain things, that is also some destruction that's actually happening. So this character is one such where you come across that her life is being, a person's life has been completely loaded in the computer, and because of that she has a fear of it, and in the end she completely loses her life, okay. So that is what you come across in this book, that is The Winter Market. It's actually not a novel, but it's a short story that you can read, okay. So this is one such work that is actually very famous. And the next writers, when we talk about the cyber world, or when we talk about cyberpunk, okay, so this cyberpunk, you come across some of the famous writers, that is Pat Cadigan and Marsh Piercy, okay. So what they do is that when we talk about Pat Cadigan and Marsh Piercy, they not only talk about the cyborgs, but they also see as in how the cyborgs is being, as in how the cyborgs is being connected to these satellites, and how this technology plays a major role there, okay, how the use of technology, or how the satellites plays a major role, you can just come across, okay. So the famous work is that The Woman on the Edge of Time, that is by Mark Piercy, okay. So there, that is the first cyberpunk fiction that you come across. So here she tells as in how the technology is being playing a major role, especially through the satellites, okay. So that is what the work by Marsh Piercy. And also another work that you can read, that is Pat Cadigan Sinners. So this Pat Cadigan Sinners is where you come across all the characters. You can see there are so many characters, like 3 or 4 characters. So in that, 3 women characters is being completely loaded all their data. They actually have a game or something like that, and then they completely transform themselves, okay, and that's when they completely transform into a cyborg. And how in the end the women, as in 2 women, 2 female cyborgs and 1 male cyborg, is completely ruined because of the exposure that has been put forward in the environment, as in put forward in the system, okay. So this Pat Cadigan Sinners also is really good. So some things that you can talk about the cyborg fiction is William Gibson's, and Pat Cadigan and Marsh Piercy. So these are some of the works that you can highlight. So the next term, when we talk about cyborg intentionality, okay. So before we saw as in how cyborgs has been playing a major role in different aspects, be it in films or be it in the fictional narratives. But now you come across how the cyborg intentionality is being brought in here. So this cyborg intentionality. So what is this intentionality? So intentionality is, before moving to cyborg intentionality, I would like to tell what is the definition of intentionality. That is, what is the meaning of intentionality? So intentionality is nothing, but it is a concept that is being used to understand the relations between the human beings and the world. Okay, so that is what is known as the intentionality. So how this cyborg is being used as a intentionality? Okay, so cyborg, you know, it is a partly human and partly machine. Okay, so in that way, the cyborg intentionality is being brought in. So when this cyborg intentionality is brought in, that is where you'll be able to separate how the human beings is being, how the human beings as a connection with the world, how they are able to separate it, okay, and how there are other connections that can be brought in with regards to the human beings and the world. That is known as the inextricable connections, okay. So first we saw as in how the human beings are connected to the technology, how the human beings are connected to the nature. But when we talk about the intentionality, you'll be able to understand how there are different relations that you're able to connect with the human beings and the world. Okay, so the first intentionality. Okay, so when we talk about the intentionality itself, there are three different structures that you need to follow when we talk about the intentionality. So the first one is the human experience. Okay, so when we talk about the human experience, the first thing is that humans, you cannot understand a human being when a person is in isolation mode, right? So you can take it in your personal life or anything for that matter. So when you are separated, when you need some isolation or anything of that sort, we live in a different world. We feel like we don't want to talk with anyone, or we don't want to involve with anything or anything of that matter. So that is what here you come across, the isolation. Okay, so this human experience, when we talk about the isolation from the reality in which we are living in, so that is the first structure that you come across, the human experience, how the human experience is being highlighted when a person is in isolation from the reality that the person is in. Okay, and the second one is that how the humans are aware, or how the humans are actually having the consciousness of moving towards the reality. So for example, you cannot just simply tell that this he's thinking, or he or she is thinking something, but you cannot also simply tell that I have feel or something like that. Okay, so it's that there is something that instinct is always there when you think or when you do something. Okay, so that is what is known as the turn towards the reality, how the human are actually turning towards the reality. And the third one, what you see is that how the humans are not actually directed towards the different entities. Okay, so for this is that how the humans are able to understand what is their reality and what is their not reality, as in what is the real world and unreal world. Okay, so they'll be able to understand it in a very clear manner, as in which is in a conscious level and which is in a unconscious level. Okay, so that is the relation that you talk about with the reality when we talk about the cyborg intentionality. So this cyborg intentionality was actually put forward by Don Heide. So Don Heide is the writer, an American philosopher and a writer who has been famous for his work on science and technology studies. So in his work, that is science and technology studies, you see as in how he tells the cyborg, how the term intentionality is being used in different concepts. Like as in the next slide, I will tell you as in what is hybrid intentionality, and then what is mediated intentionality. So these are some terms that he brings in with aspects to the cyborgs. Okay, so he was the first writer that he puts forward this intentionality in the science and technology studies. Okay, so what does he tell in his book? What does he tell in his work? What does he tell is that he feels that the technology culture that we are living in, okay, so that is most of it is being connected to the technological devices. Okay, so that is what he tells, said that most of the works, or most of the, as in most of us who live in this world, we are connected, or we are actually evolving into that technological aspect. So that's where he brought in the technological culture. Okay, so the technological culture and the cyborg intentionality was actually put forward by Don Heide. So the technological aspects, or what are the other technological things that you come across by Don Heide, is that the first one is that how the technologies are actually being connected with the user. Okay, as in how how there is a sort of good relationship between the humans and the world. Okay, so like for example, you can tell as in how the humans are actually having a connection with the world. It's like connection with the technology in the world is like the phones what we use, or the media platforms that we use to communicate. Okay, so that is the best example when we talk about the technology that is being embodied by the user. And the next one, what you see here is that alterate reality, as an alterity relation. So So what is this alternative relation is that how the human beings are able to connect with the device. So for example, when we talk about this alterity relation, this is actually very important when we talk about this cyborg intentionality, because this alterity relation is actually what happening to in our everyday life we come across this. So the best example would be, we'll go to an ATM, we take money from that, but there is a connection with the device that we are having it. So it can be you're using a phone, or it can be using a ATM, you're withdrawing your cash or something like that. So that's where the alternative relation is being brought in there. Okay. So the third one is that the hermeneutic relation. So what is this hermeneutic relation? Okay. So this hermeneutic relation is that how you're able to interpret the technology in the form of perception. Okay. So for this, when you talk about the perception, when you talk about the hermeneutic relation in cyborgs, is that that's the best thing is that you know, when we have fever or anything of that sort, we check through the thermometers, right? So we don't actually know as in what is the experience, whether the thermometer, what they give the accurate temperature or anything, whether it's the actual experience of hot or cold, but you are tend to believe that whatever the values or whatever the figures that they show, it needs to be read. So that's something that the thermometer tries to convey through us through the temperature. So that is where you come across the hermeneutic relation, as in how the technology is being mediated in the form of perception. Okay. And the next one is the technology mediated world, as in you come across the technology relation, human and technology. Here you come across as in how we are able to not only experience a direct influence by the technology, but we are able to have certain perceptions. Like for example, you may switch on your light, or you may switch off your refrigerator, or you may, when you switch on your AC, you may hear some sounds or something like that. So that is where you come across the tech, as in how the human and technology aspects through the form of perception, that is in the hermeneutic relation you can interpret. Okay. So these are some examples and some cyborg intentionality that you come across. Okay. So now we'll see what are the different roles that you are able to connect with the human and technology. Okay. So there are some related mediated worlds that you come across. So the first one is human intentionality. So what is this human intentionality? So this human intentionality is that how you're able to have the intentionality with the technology. So it's like basically the technological artifacts. Okay. So technological artifacts like the phones or whatever is connecting to the technology, the computers, whatever you use, everything that has a direct connection to the intentionality and the humans. Okay. So how that is a direct relation when we talk about the humans and the world. Okay. So the next one is the mediating artifacts. So what is the mediating artifacts? So how this mediating artifacts actually shapes our relation with the human and the world. So what are the examples that we can cite when we talk about the relation with the human and the world is? So it can be binoculars, then thermometers, air conditioners, how they actually shape the experiences and how they actually give access to the reality through the experience. Okay. So without any experience, we'll not be able to connect it, right? So the same way is what you see as in how the humans, they have a direct connection to the technology, and that technology is being known as the mediated artifacts. Okay. So that is what you come across here. The next one is hybrid intentionality. So still now we saw about what is human intentionality, as in how the human intentionality is connection with the technology and the humans, as into the technological artifacts that in the form of thermometers, binoculars, whatever it is. Okay. So how we have using it in our day-to-day life. So the next one is hybrid intentionality. So what is this hybrid intentionality? As mentioned, hybrid is nothing but it is an amalgamation of two. So this amalgamation of two is nothing but it is the human and the machine. Okay, so when we talk about the human and technology aspects, we come across when human and technology combine together, they have, yeah, tell me what it is. Hello? Can I continue?
That might be by mistake. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So this hybrid intentionality. So this hybrid intentionality where you come across as in how the humans and technology, okay? So humans and technology, you know, it's a amalgamation of two, as in the amalgamation of human and technological artifacts, okay? How they are being merged and how they form a new entity. So when we talk about the new entity, that is where you come across the cyborgs. Okay, it can be a cyborg, it can be a robot, it can be a monster, anything for that matter. Okay, so when humans and when technological artifacts come together, when that amalgamation actually happens, that's where you come across a new entity, a new person, or a new form. That is known as the hybrid intentionality. So in this hybrid intentionality is where we come across the biological, or you talk about the cyborgs, how they are actually being evolved in this hybrid intentionality. Okay, so the hybrid intentionality is basically, it's a half organic and half technological. Okay, so when we talk about half organic and half technology, it's not only about cyborgs. You can also see how the microchips, as in how these microchips are actually implanted in the vision for the visually impaired people, how it's actually implanted in them. Okay, how that also can be used as a hybrid intentionality. Okay, and then other antidepressant that the people take. Okay, and how they actually change. Okay, and how the, what are the other things that you're able to connect with the technology, like pacemakers. Okay, how the pacemakers has been used to make the function of the heartbeat. Okay, so these are some of the things that can also be an amalgamation of the hybrid forms, like the human and the technological artifacts. Okay, so it's not only cyborgs, or it's not only robotic or something like that, but beyond that, you can also come across this microchips, or pacemakers, or antidepressant, how they also has a connection to the technology and the human aspects. Okay, and next you come across how the influence of drugs. So this hybrid intentionality, you can also see how the influence of drugs, or this microchips, how that has been actually been given for a human, and how they actually evolve into that being. Okay, so when these things are inside their body or something like that, they evolve into a different human beings. Okay, so that is also you can come across in the hybrid intentionality. Okay, so all these intentionalities, what you come across is here, where you come across the post-human thing. Okay, so post-human is that it's not only a complete, the main thing to put it in simple terms about post-human is that it completely rejects whatever the humanists follow. So humans, we all know that before the 18th and 19th century, the humanism has a thing that they are the self-entity. They have nothing to do with the other relations to the world or something like that. But post-humanism is that they completely reject the humanism aspect, and they take control, as in they feel that it is a complete connection with the humans and the non-human worlds. Okay, so here also you see how this post-humanism is able to connect with the cyborg studies. Okay, so when we talk about this, you come across as in how the human and technology, they co-constitute each other. Okay, so the before thing we saw about human intentionality and hybrid intentionality. So now you come across as a mediated intentionality. So what is this mediated intentionality? As in how this, through the influence of medias, okay, through the influence of medias and in everything, how the human lives are completely transformed. We tend to believe whatever is happening in the media or anything of that sort. So when that happens, actually our life completely been evolving into it, and that's where the mediated intentionality happens. Okay, So the next one, what you see is the cyborg phenomenology. Yeah. So this cyborg phenomenology. So what is this cyborg phenomenology? Okay. So phenomenology, you all know, it's a study that has been associated with the environment. Okay. It's a study that's actually associated with the environment and the experience that you are having towards the human activity. That is what is known as the phenomenology. So when we talk about phenomenology, what are the other things that can be perceived through consciousness? That is the experience, what we are living at present. Okay, our life experiences. Okay, that also can be brought in. So what is this cyborg phenomenology? So this cyborg phenomenology is that the experience of how you are becoming a cyborg, as in how you are actually being evolving into a new entity. Okay, and there is a question that is actually raised when we talk about this cyborg phenomenology. So this cyborg phenomenology is that it is an understanding, it questions of how a woman, how a human being actually evolves into a different hybrid being, and how they are able to understand this experience in this technological world. Okay, so that is a question when we talk about this cyborg phenomenology. So it's not, they also question as in how a human being has been completely evolving in the technological aspect. That itself is a big question. And the second thing is that how their understanding of the techno world is being brought into the environment. So this is where the question lies in. Okay. So this post phenomenology. So what is that post phenomenology? So phenomenology, as mentioned, you know, that is, it's a study that has been actually connected to the environment based on the actual location and the actual experience that we are living in. Okay. And this, what is this post phenomenology? So post phenomenology is that it's actually having an interconnection. Okay. So what is that interconnection? Interconnection is like a combination, a direct involvement or a direct connection. Okay. So what is a direct connection that you have with science, technology, okay, and how that is being argued, okay, how that can be modified. That is known as the post phenomenology. So when we talk about this post phenomenology, that's when you come across this critic as well as an American professor who tells that how the humans transformation of cyborgs plays a major role, and he questions that. Okay, as in he talks about the transcendence in, I will just share you all a lecture or a talk by Don Heide, where he tells that he questions the authority of how the humans has been completely transformed as a cyborg. Okay, so what does he tell is that he tells that human beings as a whole, when we are not having any connection with the environment or technology, our life is peaceful. But when we are having that device implantation or anything that has been implantation in our body, okay, that's when the performance level, or be it any form, be it the performance or the way we react or what we feel or anything of that sort, this cyborgs is being completely bringing in a different aspect. So this philosopher, he highlights two aspects when we talk about the human connection with the technology. The first one is that the embodiment. So what is the connection that he talks about the human and technology is that he tells that when a man or when a woman is being completely transformed to a cyborg, what are the aspects or what are the things, the struggles on different aspects that the human beings experience? That is what he tells in his essay, The Human as a Cyborg. So the first thing what he tells is that it's about the embodiment. So what is this embodiment? So embodiment is basically how the humans actually use the tools and how the tools are actually become incorporated into the body and a person's identity. Okay, so that is the first thing that you come across. So Don Heide, why does he questions the human as a cyborg? Is that he questions in two different aspects. The first one is the embodiment. So what is that embodiment? The embodiment is that how the humans has been implanted their tools, or how it's been completely transformed the person's identity. That is where the embodiment happens. The second one is the hermeneutics. So this hermeneutic is that how the tool is been acting as a lens. Okay, so when we how the tool, as in how the artificial tools or how the technological tools is been acting as a lens, where you come across the personal experience that you're able to connect with the world. Okay, so here you come across as in how when a human life is being completely transformed as a cyborg, what are the other aspects, as in how a person's identity or a person's self is being completely transformed, and that is a different extension of his self. Okay, so how that plays a major role in his life, that is what is known as the perceiving here. So here the hermeneutic aspect is where you come across how the technological tools is being used as a lens to experience the personal experience connected to the world. Okay, and the next one you come across as in how this, as mentioned, how this technology is being used as a extension of their own life. Okay, so the next thing you come across the internet as cyborgs. So what is this internet as cyborgs? So the internet as cyborg is that here you come across how the human and the tech things, as in the technology thing. So here you come across the cyber network. Okay, so the cyber network of people and things that is being put forward by these two right philosopher. One is a philosopher and other one is a writer. Okay, who has brought in some different aspects when we talk about the cyborgs in internet. So this Mark Kohlberg. Okay, so this Mark Kohlberg, he's a philosopher of technology. He's a Bulgarian professor, philosopher of technology, where he defines cyber network of people and different things in different aspects. So the first one is that he tells that how the internet is being regarded as a whole. Okay, so when we talk about the internet as a whole, so first thing we'll come across as in how the soul is being connected to the brain and how it actually has a different connection. Okay, so that is where you come across here the spirit of the internet as a whole. So when we talk about the spirit of the internet as a whole, you come across the network of people and how that is a connection with different things, like for example the soul or the spirit, which is being arise from the brain, which has a different intricate connection. So it's only the soul or the brain you'll be able to come across as in how it has a connection to the internet. The second one is that how the spirit emerged from a different particular network of people. Okay, so when you're talking to a people, or when you're talking to your friends, or when you're talking to your neighbors, or when you're talking to your family members, or anyone for that matter, there may be a different connection that you have, a different spirit that you come across. Okay, so what is that spirit that you come across when you meet the new people? That is a different network that you come across. That is where the second thing actually evolved, the second spirit. The third one is where the spirit of individual things and individual human beings. So when we talk about the spirit of individual human beings is where you come across a different emerging network connections. So when we talk about the different network connection is where you come across the famous writer Nahu Kitano. Okay, so this one, he was a first you can tell it him as a scientist. So this one was the first one to bring in the development of robotics. Okay, he was the first one to bring in the development of robotics in China, and that work is known as the Robot Kingdom. So there you come across how the spirit of network is being connected in the animation studies. Okay, as in how there is a new network, a new amalgamation that you come across when you are able to connect with the different people, especially with the technological aspects. Okay, so this is the robotics in Japan that is actually being implemented by Naho Kitano. Yeah, so thank you so much, and now we can have the Q&A session. Yeah.
Participants, we are making the session open for question answers and discussion. Yeah, we can see hands raised. Lakshmi Prajapati, please feel free to ask question.
Uh, Hi. I just had one question. Can you give more examples on mediated intentionality, please?
Mediated intentionality,
Yeah, yeah.
as in
Can
how
you give
mediated.
more?
Yeah, tell me.
Can you give more examples?
Okay, so mediated intentionality is something that you are able to connect with the media space. So for example, it can be connected to any media platforms. Okay, so any media platforms for that matter, and how that, so media platforms, you can talk about the Facebook or blogs or anything of that sort, and how the cyborgs is been playing a major role there. So there may be some characters that you come across when we put forward in the media platforms, right? So that is how you'll be able to come across in the mediated intentionality.
Okay. I have one more, I just wanted your take on this thing. So, now that you have spoken about male and female cyborgs,
Yeah.
so do you see any similarities of in them according to like male and females, like normal human male and female, and uh, female and male cyborgs? Are there any similarities in the sense that do they have equality and equal platform because they are machines?
Yeah. So for this, I would like to suggest work, as in if you want to know the differentiation between the male cyborgs and female cyborgs, is that, so if you come across this Mary Shelley's work Frankenstein, he's a male character, right? He's actually a male monster, but in the beginning he was actually very good and all that stuff. But in the end, he becomes so aggressive. He's not actually okay with what he is. Okay, so that is the quality that you can see when you come across the male cyborgs, as in a aggressive person, not an aggressive, but a person who's not actually been happy with anything of that sort. But when you come across the female cyborgs, like the characters or the fiction that you come across, the film text or anything for that matter, like Ex Machina or Spike Jones, Her, or then Pat Carrigan Sinners, the female cyborgs you see, they doesn't react so much. Okay, they are actually very subtle or something like that. But on the whole, when we talk about the cyborg itself, they are both same, but the qualities is what they differ, as in how they are actually being portrayed in the scientific text and also in the film text. So these as in the fictions as well as in the film text.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next, we can have a person with a name scholar profile.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful, experience listening your conversation. I have a query, as you mentioned that there are two different cyborgs, male cyborg and female cyborg. And as far as my understanding is concerned, that cyborg is a post-gender society where it doesn't believe on any particular gender, whether it's a male gender, whether it's a female gender. But in Frankenstein, even we see that the Frankenstein, that monster, he wants the very opposite gender. That he wants a companion in the form of a,
I understand that he wants a
yes,
female gender, right?
yes.
But
But
when you, you tell me, yeah.
okay, so this cyborg doesn't need any gender, as per my understanding. I may be wrong somewhere, so you can clarify me or just
See,
brief.
there is nothing like gender thing or something like that, but the character aspects. Okay, so the character aspect, as when you read the Frankenstein itself, the entire Frankenstein, when you come across, the first thing what you see is that he was happy with what he is. Okay, but the next thing what he feels is that when he sees the other couples or anything of that sort, he feels that even he should have a female companion. Okay, but after that, what you can see is that when the people or when the society starts to ignore him for the for the way he looked and everything of that sort, he actually doesn't want to lead a life like that. Okay, so he feels that being a monster is not actually someone to be appreciated or anything of that sort. That is how that has been portrayed in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Okay, but when you come across the other film texts, like film text of fictional narratives, like for example that I have talked about, this one, what is that, Pat Cadigan's Sinners, or William Gibson's The Character Lizzie. So there where you come across this character Lizzie, when her personal data has been completely into the computer, she completely tends to lose herself. She feels that her life is completely been in a different world where her identity or the fear of everything's been everything's aware to the world. She tends to lose her life. Okay, but there is no gender aspects. But this is how the males, as in how the cyborg as a male is being represented, and how the cyborg in female is being represented. The same thing is where you come across Pat Cadigan's Sinners. So in this Pat Cadigan's Sinners, you come across how the three females, as in the three cyborg female character, how they actually been exposed to the technology thing, and in the end they tend to lose their life. Okay, so these are something, but there's no gender aspect. That's what I'm telling. There's no gender thing. But when it comes to the qualities, or when it comes to their representation in the text or the film text that's been put forward, you come across there are two different aspects. That is what I would tell you.
Okay, ma'am.
Right.
Can I ask another one, because I have another query, as Donna Haraway written her first work, and where she mentions about the socialist feminism. So would you please make the difference between socialist feminism and the mainstream feminism? Just a slightly.
I couldn't get you.
Can you make the difference between socialist feminism and the mainstream feminism? I mean, how socialist feminism is different, in terms of the cyborg and
socialist feminism, here you come across as in the autonomy level, as in how the West supremacy has been playing a major role there. Okay, so that is what, as I have seen in the simian cyborgs, that is what I have gone through. Okay, and the other one, I'm not clear, as in, can you repeat that term?
Socialist feminism and mainstream feminism. So earlier feminist study we are do, and that we talk about the equality, gender equality, and women's equal role in the society.
Okay,
but,
women's equal role, here you talk about as in she when she writes the book. Okay, so in a book, that is when in the Cyborg Manifesto, it's not in Cyborg Manifesto, but in the Siemens book, that when she talks about the cyborg, she's been criticized for it. Okay, she's been criticized by the post-structuralist thinkers, as in you being a white, as in how you are an anti-racist, how you can talk of the women, or the how we are evolving towards technology. So she's been criticized for that, being a feminist in that aspect.
Okay.
Okay, we can move ahead with the next question. I request Anjali Paul to unmute and ask question.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I just wanted a suggestion. Could you please suggest some Indian films or fiction where you can explore this concept of cyborgs or posthumanism in general?
Indian text, maybe I'll just look into it and tell you, because on Tuesday's session, we'll have human enhancement and film text. Okay, so as on Monday, even on Monday, I'll talk about speculative fiction and medical humanities. So in that, I will just look into it, Indian text, okay? Because at present, my research is on American text, so American literature. So for Indian text, I'll just look into it and let you know.
Okay, ma'am. And just one more thing. So when we regard the figure of cyborgs, should we regard it as a figure of fear or a warning, or something hopeful, a figure that can break the binaries and break the typical hierarchies that humanism have created? In what way should we look at this?
So this cyborg is like, it's an amalgamation of the human and technology. So it actually destroys the traditional notions of the human aspects. Okay, it actually blurs the boundaries of whatever the human nations, human traditions actually follow. That is why it's known as the posthumanist cyborg. We are not telling it as, we cannot tell AI as a posthuman or something like that, because AI, you know, it's a completely, you know, how we are life is being completely evolved into the technology thing. But this is something where how the human and the machine is actually having combined, and that is how they blur the boundaries. So that is how the cyborg is being represented.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anjali. I request MD Mondal to unmute and ask question.
Ma'am, could you tell me more about embodiment?
What?
Embodiment.
Embodiment. So embodiment
Yes.
is something where you will be able to see, as in the connection, okay, as in how you are able to connect or having a understanding with the human and the technological aspect, as in how you are actually been evolving life.
Okay, so you are telling that if someone's could you take the example of Captain America?
The movie that you were talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, that can be told, but here you see as in how the, see, the first thing when we talk about embodiment is that the technology aspect, but apart from that, you can also see how the technological tools is being actually being objected into the body for a person's identity. So it's similar way, it's like the cyborg embodiment, as in the cyborg connection. That is what is known as the embodiment, as in how the humans are using the tools, as in the technological tools, and how they are no longer human things, but they have been completely turned into a technological object, and how the tools is being incorporating in their body.
Okay, so many of the Marvel's character will fall into this category.
Yeah, Marvel's, yeah, some Marvel's characters you can talk about it. And also if you come across Star Trek, even that characters can also be dealt in a cyborg perspective.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I request Rajendra ji to unmute and ask question.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I'd like to know, how does Donna Haraway conceptualize the cyborg as a post-human subject? And in what ways does it challenge the traditional humanistic values?
Because Donna Haraway is, she's the one who brings in the concept of human and technology thing. Okay, so why does she talk about the human and technology is that because post-human, you all know that it rejects the tradition of the traditions of what the humanist follows. Okay, so humanism is basically how they treat themselves as something superior, or how they have been treated as a self entity. But posthumanism is something that it's not it's beyond that. You are having a direct connection with the a human and the inhuman. Okay, as in the human beings and the technology, the human beings and the nature. So whereas when we talk about the cyborg is an amalgamation of the human and the technology aspects. So it's not only cyborgs, you can also see monsters, you can also see aliens. But when we talk about AIs, or when we talk about nanotechnology or genetic engineering, that is where how the humans are completely transformed into that level. That is the difference between the transhuman and the posthuman. So cyborgs, you know, they have been able, that is a hybrid form of human and technology, and that is why it has been come under the concept of posthuman. But this AI, this robotics, it's like a technology is completely transforming their life, and that's when the transhuman is being brought in with regards to the AI.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Rajendra ji. I request Paul's Galaxy to unmute and ask question. A person, yeah.
Hi, good evening.
Please.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Good evening, madam. First of all, I thank you for choosing this a wonderful session about post-humanism theory. Because of my research area is post-humanistic themes in Octavia Butler's selected works. So I'm in the first day. I'm extremely happy to uh, said about your perspective of Octavia Butler's one and only Afro-American science fiction writer. My question is, how can I narrow down without a cyborg theory to find out the post-humanistic themes in Octavia Butler's work?
So without cyborg aspect, you can, as in your research is on Octavia Butler's, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can bring in some concepts that has been actually been you come across in posthumanism, like Bernard Stiegler's techno corporeality. You can bring in, as in it's not connected with cyborgs, but it's like how the humans and technology has been completely transforming their lives. Okay, so Bernard Stiegler's techno corporeality you can bring in. Okay, and the next one, if you want to deal it in a gender perspective, you can talk it in the form of gender and post-human aspect, if you are interested in gender aspect.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I would take, there are two questions in chat box, Feinsta.
Yeah,
One
yes,
is to differentiate between mediated artifacts and mediated intentionality.
As in where is it, sir? I couldn't see. Is it in the?
It's like, can you decipher the difference between mediated artifacts and mediated intentionality?
Mediated artifacts and mediated intentionality. So artifacts here refers to the technological tools that is being used. Okay, so intentionality is actually how you, as mentioned, that intentionality is something that you'll be able to have a connection with the internet and also with the technological aspect. So that is the thing. And
okay, we have one more question by, I think, Eptism Lasker. How do hermeneutics apply to cyborg studies? That's one. And second, does technology act as an extension of human perception, or does it fundamentally alter it?
one second. I'll just scroll the question. How do hermeneutics apply to cyborgs and technology act as an extension of human, fundamentally alter it? So here is that hermeneutics, you'll know, as in the technological tools, how you are using as a lens and how that is being used to experience the personal life connecting to the world. Okay, so it's actually how the human perception or human experience is being connected to the world in the form of cyborg and technology, and how it's able to extend their life. Okay, as in the extension of oneself. It doesn't actually alter the person's life, but their prolongivity, okay, or the extension of oneself is actually what we see when we talk about the hermeneutic aspect of cyborg studies. So it's actually through hermeneutic lens that you will be able to see as in how one can experience the outside world, okay, and how the technology is being treating a person as a different extension of oneself.
All right, participants, we are almost done with the questions in chat box. We make the session open and we announce it once again. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Excuse me, sir. I think you said that the previous session will be recorded and uploaded in YouTube channel. We couldn't find it.
Yeah, it has. I mean, we have received the recording. The technical team is yet to go through the recording and remove some, need to do some technical functionality. So probably Monday it would be uploaded.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Okay, so I think if there are no more questions, we call it a day, participants. All right. Thank you very much. So first of all, thanks to all the participants for bringing out more and more questions and making it more interactive. That's what we actually look forward to in every faculty development program that we have. More questions, more interaction, and that actually results into more learning. So we would appreciate you continuing this journey of raising your questions and maybe sharing your knowledge. And thank you very much.
And just 1 second, sir,
G.
before
G.
you. Thank you, participants, for the queries and whatever the doubts that you have asked. Thank you so much. But another thing I just want to tell you all, that it's a wonderful session meeting different participants from across the globe, and especially Pradyumna sir for giving me the opportunity. And next session is on Monday. So I would like to tell the participants that please give a reading of medical humanities, okay? Because only if you have a background of the medical humanities, you'll be able to understand how the posthuman and medical humanities plays a major role. So on Monday's session, I'll be highlighting some of the fictional text in posthumanism, and also how the medical humanities plays a major role in the posthuman aspects.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So with this, we call it a day, participants. So happy weekend.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night, everyone.
Good night, sir.